Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. It's Colin, and today we're going to be going over my top 5 rock supergroups from the year 2000 up until today. So, this video was actually a request by my wife. Normally, for video requests, you have to be a Patreon, but I'm not going to charge my wife to request a video topic. So, her actual initial request was just top 5 supergroups, but I wanted to split it up at least into 2 videos, especially when it comes to rock supergroups, because I feel like it's kind of unfair to compare like modern rock supergroups with ones from like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So some of these are like formed in the tail end of the 90s, but didn't really like put anything out or come to fruition until at least the 2000s, and most of them are a bit more modern than that. But before we get into the list, let's go over a couple ground rules. So first and foremost, to be a supergroup, in my opinion, you have to be well established with another group or band before joining what would be considered the supergroup. So I feel like there's a lot of musicians out there that like were famous in a group and then split off and did other things, or got their start somewhere and then they added new members and changed their name or something like that. I'm not counting any of that. I'm also not counting like producer duos, so not necessarily on the rock aspect of things, but when I talk about like pop, hip hop, or electronic, I feel like there's a lot of collaborations out there with like Danger Mouse, who I would put some of those albums in like my top echelon, but I'm not counting just like producer combos. I'm also not counting just like duos. So I feel like to be a super group, you have to be at least 3 or more people. At least those are the rules that I'm going off of. So let me know down in the comments if there's some bands that you think I'm missing, if like what your top 5 super groups, or at least within this parameter, is. And let's get into some honorable mentions. So my first honorable mention is going to be Audioslave. So Audioslave formed in 2001 with Chris Cornell of Soundgarden, and then 3 of the members of Rage Against the Machine: Tom Morello, Tim Comerford, and Brad Wilk. So I am only including them as an honorable mention because, to be perfectly honest, like, they're not someone I listen to a ton. Again, this is just my personal top 5, not who I think are objectively the best. And I think a lot of people would probably have these guys way higher on their list. I just, again, personally, like, not someone that I listen to on a regular basis. I do like their music. I like the 3 studio albums that they've come out with. I think Chris Cornell has probably one of the best voices of that sort of like grunge scene, and then mixing with like the more harder rock driven stuff of the 3 members of Rage Against the Machine definitely created a unique sound, especially on their second album. But again, they're just not someone that I put on super regularly, which makes them fall a little bit farther behind in my ranking. My second honorable mention is going to be The Sound of Animals Fighting. Now, I actually surprised myself that these guys weren't in the top 5, but I am actually reserving that spot for a different Anthony Green project. I love The Sound of Animals Fighting. I think some of their albums are a little like incoherent, at least with like some of just the song structure and like placement, which is very intentional because Rich Balling, who is like the guy that really kind of founded it, of RX Bandits, wanted them to be like a musical equivalent of like poetry. So they've got some offbeat, like avant-garde experimental stuff thrown in throughout like their super group mix of like post-hardcore and like screamo and emo. And yeah, they're a really fun group. So they've got a bunch of members that have been part of it over the years. I've already mentioned Rich Balling as well as Anthony Green. Early on, another notable member was Craig Owens of Chiodos. But yeah, go look at their full lineup. All of the members have been parts of other bands over the years. Got the chance to see them live a couple years ago, and it was absolutely incredible. I think it was Anthony Green at some of like his absolute best. And yeah, the only reason I don't have them higher is just because the acts after them I tend to listen to a bit more regularly still. That being said, still absolutely incredible. Go check them out, especially if you're into like the post-hardcore scene at all. They're doing some incredible stuff. The album they came out with, what, 4 or 5 years ago. Absolutely amazing. And then my third and final honorable mention is going to be Better Lovers. Better Lovers is a hardcore supergroup that formed a couple years ago, kind of rose out of the ashes from the collapse of Every Time I Die. Every Time I Die is probably my favorite hardcore group of all time. So I was really excited that 3 of the members from that band decided to continue on. Especially Jordan Buckley, who is like one of my favorite aspects of that band, of just like what he brought from like a guitar standpoint is absolutely incredible. Then you pair that with vocalist Greg Picaido of the Dillinger Escape Plan, and then rounding off the group is going to be Will Putney of Fit for an Autopsy. So again, I absolutely love these guys. They only have an album and an EP out right now, and again, just barely didn't make the top 5, only because I like these next 5 bands and projects just that much more. But absolutely incredible. Their album that came out last year was one of my 5 favorites of the year. I have a review on it. If you haven't listened to it, go check it out. Absolute, just like raw, intense, in-your-face hardcore mixed with like a little bit of just like straight up metal. There's some thrash elements, there's some alt metal, but like it's a killer album. Absolutely amazing musicianship on it. And if you're into like hardcore music at all, definitely go check it out. So with the honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into the top 5. So coming in at number 5 is going to be A Perfect Circle. Now, technically, A Perfect Circle was formed in 1999, but they didn't release their first album until after the 2000s. So I'm counting them as part of this group, especially since the bulk of their output was after 2000. A Perfect Circle was formed by Tool frontman Maynard James Keenan, as well as Billy Howardell and Josh Freese of the Vandals, and then also of Devo. He was the original drummer, main drummer for the Vandals, and then became the drummer for Devo in 1996. James Iha of Smashing Pumpkins also joined not too far after. And Matt Majunkins of Eagles of Death Metal is also now a current member. They've got 4 studio albums at this point, each one a little bit different, a little bit weirder. They're a little bit more approachable than Tool, but a little bit more out there than the rest of the members' projects combined. I've seen them live, absolutely incredible show. And yeah, 13 Step might be one of my just all-time favorite albums. I might do like a my favorite albums review of that at some point. But yeah, definitely go check them out if you're into alternative metal. If you like Tool, but like maybe wish that sometimes they were a little bit less like proggy or a little bit less, drawn out, then A Perfect Circle's exactly what you're looking for. The guitar work on their albums is still amazing. The drums are incredible. Maynard, of course, his vocals just soar in a lot of these songs. But yeah, they're a lot more like straightforward traditional song structures than you'd get on like a Tool album. And sometimes that's what I'm in the mood for. So don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Tool. Sometimes that's all I want. But I still absolutely adore A Perfect Circle, and that's why they're my number 5. Coming in at number 4 is going to be The Dead Weather. So The Dead Weather supergroup formed in 2009. Most famous member is probably Jack White. He did vocals and actually drums for this project. Which normally he's on guitar, so it's cool to like see him do a different instrument. Allison Mosshart of Kills, as well as Dean Fertitta and Jack Lawrence. So they're very much kind of like a grungy garage rock, blues rock, a little bit of like psych influence thrown in. They're super fun. They have 3 studio albums to date. Their second one, Sea of Cowards, is my personal favorite. And yeah, I mean, any project that Jack White touches is going to be absolutely incredible. But this one is probably my favorite. I mean, I got started with the White Stripes like a lot of people do. I love the Raconteurs. I think almost everything he's put out from his like solo output has been outstanding. But for some reason, these 3 albums, specifically Sea of Cowards, just really, really do something for me at certain times of my life. And yeah, I absolutely adore them. And if you're not super familiar with them, I feel like they're one of Jack White's groups that don't get talked about enough, or like most people haven't listened to. It's definitely worth going and checking out, especially if you're a fan of Jack White's. Hearing him on drums, he definitely just shows how talented of a musician he is. But I love the like mix of male and female vocals between like him and Allison. Like I think it just works super, super well. And yeah, all 3 of the albums are absolutely killer. Coming in at number 3 is going to be Dream Car. So Dream Car is essentially No Doubt, but with Davey Havok of AFI fame and vocals instead of Gwen Stefani. So I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure like the members of No Doubt wanted to do a reunion, and Gwen Stefani at the time like wasn't feeling it. So one of the members like reached out to Davey Havok and was like, "Hey, we want to make music. We've got some stuff written that's a little bit different. What do you want to come do vocals for us?" Now, again, this could be completely wrong, but I believe that is the story. Anyway, they're like a new wave, like kind of post-punk band, so very different than what like Davey Havok or the guys from No Doubt have done up to this point. With the exception of some like the later AFI stuff, he was definitely getting into some darker like goth and post-punk and like a little new wavy stuff, but not to like the theatrical scale that this group was doing. They've got one album and one EP, including an absolutely killer cover of David Bowie's Moon Age Daydream. And yeah, their first single off their like full album, Kill for Candy, just hooked me right away. It's so catchy, it's so fun. I love the aesthetics. I would love to see them live. I know they do like very select one-off shows, but if you ever get a chance to see them, go do it. If you haven't listened to them, go listen to them. The album's incredible. The EP's incredible. I hope we get more. I hope I get a chance to see them. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite like supergroup projects to come out of the past. We'll call it like I think 7 years at this point. And yeah, just an absolutely incredible output from an incredibly talented group of musicians. And my second favorite, we'll just call it modern rock supergroup, is going to be LS Dunes. Now, I've talked about LS Dunes before on this channel. They did a review of their most recent album, Violet, back in February, I want to say, January, February. Their debut album, their self-titled album, was probably like one of my all-time favorite albums of the past 5 or 6 years. And yeah, I absolutely love everything about this group. So if you're not familiar with them, it's Anthony Green again of Circa Survive, Seosin, Sound of Animals Fighting. Then you've got Frank Iero on guitar of My Chemical Romance, Travis Stever from Coheed and Cambria, and Tim Payne and Tucker Rule from Thursday. So a who's who of some of the best like progressive punk, post-hardcore bands of the past like 20 years. And what they've come together to create is nothing short of spectacular. Like it's both the albums they've come out with are so good. You hear influences from all 4 of those bands while at the same time like sounding like something new and fresh. And it's just, they're so good. I love every single thing they've put out so far. I haven't had a chance to see them live yet. They were just here, but unfortunately I had like too many other commitments going on around that time. But I want to get a chance to see them so bad. 2 albums out so far. Hope they keep putting out more. Hope they keep touring and performing and playing. Not that I don't want like, you know, them to do stuff with the rest of their bands, because all of those rest of those bands are doing stuff collectively right now. But yeah, I love LS Dunes. I can't wait for more music for them to come out. And probably one of my favorite projects of the past like 10 years. And my all-time favorite modern rock supergroup is them Crooked Vultures. I don't know if it gets better than this. You've got Josh Homme on guitar and vocals. You've got Dave Grohl on drums. And you've got John Paul Jones of fucking Led Zeppelin on bass. They only ever put out one album. I think they did a couple one-off shows after that one album. But goddamn, is it a good album. Now, I know there's people out there that feel like this is basically just a Queens of the Stone Age album. It's not. It's so much more. The musicianship on here is incredible. It's its own thing for sure. The bass in particular, like you can just hear that Zeppelin influence, obviously, because it was the basis for Zeppelin. But like, I love this album. It's almost one of the most perfect just rock albums to ever exist. And the fact that we got these 3 musicians together to create this at that point in time is amazing. And I don't think anything will ever like recreate it. I don't think it'll ever be touched in the modern sphere of supergroups. It's a perfect album. Go listen to it. Hope to God that we get some sort of reunion with them at some point. I mean, John Paul Jones is getting up there, so I feel like the likelihood of that happening is fairly low at this point. But Yeah, absolutely incredible album. Go listen to it. My number one with a bullet, hands down, them Crooked Vultures. All right, that's going to be my top 5 rock supergroups from 2000 till now. Stay tuned. I will be doing a video of rock supergroups from 1970 to 2000. And we're going to use rock fairly loosely for a couple of those. But that being said, I think that's going to be a fun video as well. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff helps me out a ton. And as always, I will talk to y'all later. Peace.